What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of the She Sells Weed podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mindo Indo.
And I am Jax, your other host.
And today we are going to do a special interview. It's going to be Jax's episode. So we're going to dive in deep to Jax's journey with the plant and the evolution of the learning of cannabis. Yeah. So, Jax, you've had quite a relationship, I would say, with the cannabis plant, from actually growing and producing large amounts of cannabis in big grows, to having your own cannabis farm, to now running and managing a dispensary. And really kind of what we do here on the SheSellsWeed podcast too is a lot of education and documentation of the journeys of a lot of other people in the cannabis space. And so we want to kind of just maybe start at the beginning, like what really pulled you towards this plant and connected you? Because having a farm and growing weed is very difficult. It is not an easy thing. I have not done it personally myself, so I'm very curious on, there's a lot of nuances to it, but it is not easy work. It's really labor intensive and very temperamental, I would say as well. So when did you start growing? It started
really when I was younger. I was kind of a homeschool kid, so I was like a good kid, like never did drugs, never drank, never like hung out really until I got older and had some life situations with family happen, and it kind of pushed me into a different direction. And I first just started smoking weed like everybody else with some friends, and then slowly but surely, like, I started noticing improvements in myself. I used to deal with a lot of anxiety, and I wouldn't eat for like days on end from the anxiety. And so when I would smoke weed, I realized like, oh, I could eat. And like, that was really nice. So like in the beginning, it was like, I would always have to smoke and then be able to eat. I mean, it was
we got to eat. That's important. That's the first thing. You got to be able to do that.
Exactly. So it kind of just started with my own journey, like using it medicinally, but not realizing it. But the medicinal side of like the growing and everything really started like in my early 20s. It kind of came out of actually getting stopped by the police, and I'd just gone up to Humboldt, and I had this amazing super silver haze, like indoor from Humboldt. And back then that was like the glory days of it. And the cop took it and gave us a ticket, but he was like, "Why don't you have your medical card?" And I was like, medical card? Like, I didn't really know that I knew it existed, but I thought it was like really strict. Lo and behold, we find one. And then through going to the dispensaries and them selling plants there, I was like, oh, you can grow your own. Well, that would be way more cost effective than buying it. And I already was a gardener like my whole life. I've done plants and gardening since I can remember. And so it started with a little hydroponic system in my house and
now you're smart. You're like, I don't have to pay for it. This is a plant.
Exactly.
I can grow my own. So you had the tent. Did you have the tent and everything?
No. It started in like a closet with like the slidey doors, and like I used emergency blanket as like reflective. I borrowed a light from a friend. Like it started very amateur. But through those cycles, like I winded up with too much. That was like, okay, let me start getting it to some people. And then the real medical side happened when I started working with this gentleman out in Woodland area. I'm not going to say any names just for their own personal privacy, but
in Prop 215, you could grow also for other people.
Yeah. And that's where that really started at, was like when I got growing with him, I met him at a hydro store. I was working at a hydro store because that was like the closest I could get to like big growers and people that really knew what they were doing. Cause like I am a nerd when I get into something. Like I want to know every ins and outs of it.
You're like hanging out by all the hot spots.
Yeah.
What are people do? What they buy?
Yeah. Why are they buying it? Yep. Picking the rep sprains that used to come in.
Cause there is like many different techniques when it comes to growing. And I feel like everybody does it differently based on their soil, their nutrients, how everything goes.
For me, there's like 6 different versions of cultivation that you can do. And sure, everybody can have their own little recipe on it, right? Like everybody can cook chicken parmesan, but everybody has a little particular way that they do it. But at the end of the day, you're making chicken parmesan. So it's the same thing with growing. And I think it just really comes down to like what you're trying to achieve out of it and maybe your space and what you can do in that space. Because setting up a real DWC situation like would require a lot of space versus like you could put some pots with some soil in a tent and do it that way, which is really simple. You know what I mean? So I think it just bases on what you want. But yeah, so I met that guy there and he was a PhD scientist and he really taught me like a lot about plants and fertilizers and really how these things like work and interact. And then he wanted to start a collective. And I was like, yeah, like this is what we do in Prop 215 days. So let's do it.
Get your own nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Yeah. You're good to go.
Exactly. So we did that and we just started like helping people like, and we would have all sorts of people come through and I gained a lot of people that relied on me over the years from the different farms from him till later when I had the other grows and bigger grows and my own property like that. When it all ended, it was kind of sad because I actually tell these people like I couldn't supply them anymore, which was really sad. But learning from these people and what they needed really just made my heart light up because it was like I just enjoy doing this. And now the fact that I'm doing this and it's like improving people's lives for me was like just over the moon. Like that was it for me.
It was like it is nice to be able to directly give people their cannabis and then also trim and all of the other excess stuff that people could do that they needed to do with it.
We were making CO2 extractions actually, so we were able to purchase this tabletop supercritical CO2 extraction machine, which we had to self-learn how to operate, which was really fun. But we were able to like make so many different little products out of that CO2 oil because it's food grade and you can mix it into just about everything and anything. So we were able to make capsules and topicals and vape pens before vape pens were the big thing. And it was really fun getting to explore all that.
That's the difference, I think, between the Prop 215 and then where we are now through licensed cannabis in licensed cannabis, everything is so separate in their different segments. But doing what you were doing, it was everything. You were the cultivator, the manufacturer, the distributor, and the retailer all in the same vein. Yeah. So that is good to kind of have a handle on all four of them than going into the licensed market. You kind of know and understand every aspect of the cannabis plant.
I think, and I think that was one thing that was like so beneficial about that time was that you had really the opportunity to do that and then also see people enjoy that product that you're making versus like you're saying now it's like you have to have a lot more money to go into doing that and providing that to people.
Yeah. And like you were saying, it's these things, there was no manuals, there was no nothing. You were on just like you were at the grocery or on Instagram. You're like, so how did what did you do to purge?
So back then there were these things called forums, okay, and they were chat boards, kind of you could say like similar to like a Reddit forum now, but they were only for cannabis and like Skunk Magazine had one, and so you could actually get on there and go into the extraction category and like post a question in there. And believe it or not, a lot of the people back then that were doing really cool stuff are really smart people. They had experience in labs, they had experience doing extractions in other worlds, so like, and they were also in love with cannabis. So somebody got on there and was like, hey, how do you winterize CO2 to put it into a vape cart? They would send you a detailed like instruction on how to do it. And so it was like such a unique community. You never met any of these people. They were all anonymous, but they would all help each other. And so like that's really how I learned how to do a lot of these things. I'd just get on there and
was there a favorite thing or technique or something that you learned from not part of your journey that you were like, like you really wanted to dig into and really explore?
I got really deep into like, I don't know what's the right word to say, but like the plant science of cannabis and how and why fertilizers do what they do, depending on if it's an organic or a non-organic input. That was something I got really, really into. And back then we did have True Living soil back then. It wasn't as popular as it is now. It was like definitely like small time people doing it, but really learning about the soil science of everything going on in there was the thing that really was my favorite thing to study. It still is. Like, I love learning about how the plant does certain things or expresses certain things and why they do it and how you can create that. It gets really deep for me. And so like, I really enjoy it. Like, I did like making the CO2 oil and making hash and all those kind of things, but it wasn't the thing that like I would spend hours learning. And like,
yeah,
that was like my thing, was mostly the soil.
And the soil, is that more like the sun grown, indoor hydro, because the fertilizers and the nutrients and different things are used in many different ways depending on how you grow too.
Yeah. So I have always done a little bit of everything in there. So like every place that I've grown, from the small guy's house to like the 10,000 square foot property to the property that I had my own, I always had like different versions going in different areas because certain applications just work better in different environments. And so like we would have like an indoor growing in a more of a hydroponic type way. It might not be a full hydroponic way in the sense of like there's lots of water, but it is synthetic fertilizers. You're using a medium that doesn't have any biological life in it. It's very just synthetic fertilizers and a base for roots to grow in, basically. Versus like outside, I don't think that works that well. I think having the biomass and all the living elements in the soil, the more you can have in your plants outside, the better they're going to do. The synthetic stuff, like outside, for me, just doesn't work. I just don't see the same results I see inside. And I don't know why that is. Maybe because indoor plants don't have to deal with the same level of stress and abuse that outdoor plants have to go through. They're pretty, little pillow princesses, they're perfect air, perfect in climate, everything's clean, there's no bugs.
I'm all natural.
Yeah. And then outside, these girls are like having to stand strong. They have to deal with bugs and the wind and dirt and all sorts of stuff. So the sun beating on them for hours at a day. So I think that they just need more assistance that the soil can provide with like having a high level of bio-life, which are like microorganisms that basically attach to the root systems, and they provide aid to the plant directly in trade for the sugar water that it'll push down to its roots. And that's how they feed, basically.
Yeah. So that...
See, I can go real deep with this.
Well, I mean, learning how in different ways, like this is like a lifetime. You could be doing different techniques year after year after year for different, for your whole lifetime, and still probably not run out of different things to try when it comes to
I don't think so.
soil and fertilizer. And how was the experience of running the larger grow for you?
So when I got out of the smaller spot and I got into the 10,000 square foot greenhouse, it was a really small team. Like there was only 4 of us, but we could only do 100 plants at that time. So it wasn't...
Because that was the license, right? Like the 99.
Yeah, the 99. Yeah, exactly. I think we had 150, but 99, right?
There's little extras.
We didn't know they were going to survive, like it was just in case somebody died, we got medicine, for people. So, but we did it in a way that like we didn't, we could hand water our fertilizer, but like the water that the plants needed, those were on a drip system. So that kind of relieved us. But honestly, it's just getting out there early in the morning and not going home until night and really spending a lot of time working with the plants. And it's a lot of hard work physically. Like my body definitely shows from it. Like I have like hand injuries from too much scissor action, too much usage with my hands and stuff. But yeah, it's just being strategic, having a plan, making sure to accommodate and to adjust for anything that may arise, because things do arise. And just making sure that the team you have working with you understands that like this is going to not be easy, and that they're willing to get down with you.
They know the deal.
They do.
Right?
And trust me, you find out after a day or so. Like, they're like, no, this is not for me. And that's okay, But you do find these people that will work really hard with you. And I think having a good team and just being very passionate about it. Like, I think a lot of people who are successful at growing weed, they spend a lot of time in the garden. They, even if they have a crew of people, like, they're in there just as much themselves as their crew is, So it's just a lot of work, honestly. That's the best way I can describe it. A lot of work. Actually, if you want to see the large grow I did, there's a video. You would have to type in Purple Tangy Soil King into YouTube and it'll come up. I might throw a little clip up there.
Yeah. Like maybe you can link it somewhere so everybody could check it out.
So that was pretty cool that it was documented. And then my other one, I just have a bunch of like Instagram pictures and stuff. That property was more work than the 10,000 square foot property because it was just me and one other person. And we had 34 plants up on the hill in 400-gallon pots. We had 3 greenhouses, and then we also had a indoor grow going. And so that was waking up before the sun, like grinding every day. Like it was a lot of work. The other part that sucked about that too is like to get people to come up and trim your weed, because this is it, right? Like, growing, it's all great. The harvest is the worst part. Like, it's terrible. Like, I hate
everything happens at one time.
I can't stand it. It's so stressful. And, especially with the outdoor stuff, because it's like, it could rain, and so you're like, oh my God, you're so stressed about it. But then you've got to have all these people up on your property who like, they stay up there because when harvest starts, like it doesn't end until everything's trimmed. And so that was my first taste of like having to deal with outside people coming in.
And then what Appalachia, like what area were you in when you were growing?
It was mostly in Yolo County and then Nevada County. So if you're familiar with Nevada City, there's up Highway 70, as they call it, the Ridge. There's North San Juan's a little town.
So a lot of cannabis, good cannabis is grown. Do you feel like that climate is kind of one of the better ones that you've seen when it comes to growing?
It's a weird climate. It's weird in the sense that your timing's very different than down here in the valley. And I think that the cooler nights definitely aids the plant versus down here in the valley. Like, you can have 90-degree temperatures at night. And when plants get above 90 degrees, they really stop doing things because they're hot. And so I think up there you tend to have the cooler nights, which I think really relieves the plant from the hot days.
Gives it some like recharge. Like, I'm recharging.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sleeping.
cool. Yeah, the roots can cool down. Like, they can kind of, just like us, you know what I mean? Yeah. You go in your house and it's still 90 degrees inside your house. Like, the next day, like, you're pretty like exhausted.
Yeah.
I think that's why greenhouse does so well in the valley down here, is that you can kind of up the humidity temperatures than just having to deal with the bare heat outside. But I will say the yields up there are lower than down here. So the weed is definitely better up there, but it's lower yields. And that's just from my experience. Like, the colas didn't get as big up there as they do down here. And I think that's just because you deal with like not as much sun. Like, it is sunny up there, but it's just different. It's like, because you're at 2,500 feet, like the way the sun comes down and everything is very different. So.
Yeah, and it would depend on what side of the mountain you're on versus everything. So you're out there, Nevada City, Yolo County, growing, and then all this legislation comes out. Yeah. DCC is formed. Yeah. Oh my gosh, we got licensed cannabis. What was going on at the farm at that time, and how did you guys kind of figure out, what the next steps would be?
Well, it was my first taste of what a crash felt like a market crash, because everybody knew it was going to go legal. So people were planting a lot more plants than I anticipated. And so the per pound kind of dropped. Nevada County was like, we are not permitting anything at all.
It took them many years to permit.
Yeah. And the person who I was leasing the property from basically was like, look, I have these people that are willing to pay me double for the property's value because they believe they're going to get permits here, and I'm going to sell it to them unless you can match it. And I was like, no, I had what you wanted originally, but I do not have what you have now.
I got some really good weed.
And so I got really sad because like I knew it was like the end of an era, and I didn't really know what to do because I was growing up in the hills and doing that kind of lifestyle. I didn't have city connections. I didn't have people down in Sacramento or really in the Bay Area that I could reach out to try to get like a job right away. And so I decided to take some of my money from the couple years I'd been up there, since I wasn't obviously buying this property. And I bought a travel trailer and went across country with somebody that won't be named. But we visited 22 states, spent almost a full year out on the road. And it was one of the best experiences I had. And I think it was a good end to an era. Like, yeah, because during that time I never had any vacations. That's another thing. Like when you're grower,
out in the grow,
and then the indoor is still growing during the winter time, so you don't really have like freedom that way. So it was kind of nice to cut loose. But after we took that trip, it came home. She decided to go down a different pathway that was for her happiness, and I'm glad she's found that. But it was very opposite to what I do and have done, and it kind of caused a divide in us. And a couple years later, after we got back, we ended up parting ways and getting a divorce, which was really hard. But luckily at that time, I had been working at a couple of these places out here in the Delta because this is where we landed. There's a lot of RV places out here that offer like full-time stays, and they're nice locations. They're not gross. There's just retired people really out there. And so I started working at a couple places out here. Did not vibe with one of them at all. Terrible people.
There are many different kinds of people in the weed industry. You will learn.
I'm not one to like talk shit about anybody, but I will say those people are some of the worst people I've ever had to deal with.
There
cannabis.
are some really bad characters in the scene. So it is good to know who's who. And, when everything did start and the legalization came, there was completely switched. Who was able to get licenses and to participate. And I think even now, every year, more and more small craft farmers are losing their licenses. And there's so much data about, how much the small craft farmers are leaving. So we all support your small craft farmers.
If you can. That was one positive thing that I always kind of told myself was now that where I am now, I'm kind of I probably wouldn't have made it anyway. So it was probably a good thing
you didn't waste all your money. You took your money and you invested it.
Exactly.
That's pretty smart move there.
So get out of that. But yeah, so I ended up working here. I got a part-time job just bud tending at Delta Boys because my ex at the time, she kind of made all the money. So I was kind of doing the stay-at-home housewife kind of weird thing. And when we split up, I basically went to the owners and I was like, okay, here's the deal. I've been doing cannabis for a very long time. It looks like you guys really need some help because before I just kept to myself. I was I'm just a bud tender working a job and I'm not getting involved.
It's probably a breath of fresh air too after being strict. You needed that kind of respite. Oh yeah, I'm gonna not use my brain. I'm not gonna use my.
Oh no, the place. That previous place. The HR literally told me that they're looking for robots, and I'm not a good robot. And I was yeah, I know. Thank you.
Well, they might be able to get some soon. Just the way the world is going.
That's true.
But that ain't that ain't me. That ain't you. So.
Exactly. But yeah, so I just told them look, I can manage this place for you. I can be your buyer. I know my shit. And slowly but surely, they gained trust with me. And now I am all those things here. And it's been cool because I don't get the wool pulled over my eyes. I know what I'm looking at. I know when people come in and show me things, they'll be talking about it one way. And I know how to ask certain questions to where I'm is it this or this? And they're oh, it's that. And I'm yeah, okay. That's what I
think there's a lot of marketing language that's used in the cannabis industry. And it really does take a buyer who knows and understands how cannabis is grown and how it all works to really be able to decipher, because you could talk fancy. Yeah, but for sure. Does your weed stack up and match what you're talking about is a whole different story.
Oh my God. I think the vape pen companies are probably the worst because like their marketing is very tricky, and it's like if you don't know, like you can definitely get the wolves pulled over your eyes. I see it with customers a lot, like when they're buying different brands that are really expensive, that I'm just like, it's just a distillate cart. Like, why are you paying $60 for it? Like, it's a $20 cart. Stop doing that to yourself. You know, if you're gonna spend $60, get a rosin pen or something. You know, get something that actually has that value, which is always really fun with customers too. Because sometimes I get customers that come in with like, they're smart, but they've never really had anybody be a little bit smarter than with weed. And like we get talking, and the like you can see it in their eyes. They're like, "Oh, you do know your shit." I'm like, "Yeah, I do." That's the reason
like, I've been here for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, I miss the growing. I believe that it was a chapter in my life that I've had to come to terms with. It was really sad. I mean, I won't lie. Like there was definitely some sad parts, but I am happy for where I am. I'm happy to be a part of the community still. I'm happy to get to kind of project the culture of cannabis through the dispensary instead of it just always everywhere you go is just this kind of corporate model. I'm so happy when people come in and they just feel like relaxed and they're like, God, this is like how it used to be. And I'm like, yeah, and it still can be, but you have to support the stores that are doing it. There's a lot of them out there, but if you keep shopping at those corporation stores that are offering you 30% off every day, you're going to put us out of business because small business can't do that, you know? So, but yeah, growing was a lot of fun. I documented as much of it as I could, but yeah, it definitely was a fun time, and someday I hope to get back to it for sure.
So, question.
Oh, okay, good.
Sun grown versus indoor.
It depends on the grower. And I will say that there are people out there that do sun grown that I am always impressed with. And we could say sun grown's in a greenhouse too. Okay, we'll say that, right? Yeah. And I think sometimes I will come across brands in the current rec market that I'll look at it and I'll be like, this is greenhouse? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, this person knows what they're doing. But I've seen indoor that is just, I don't even know why you're growing it at that point, you know, like stop, like just get a different grower and there's something. But I think it really just depends on like the genetics and also like the grower, because like there's certain growers that like, they just have a special skill for it. I think the two people that I can think of when it comes to like bigger brands that you're going to find and not super boutique brands, but is like, for me is like Preferred is doing a really good job. And then there's, I think it's called Bucky's or something like that, or Buck. They're out of Grass Valley. They do a really good job. And there's a couple other Grass Valley farms that they don't really have brands, but I've seen their weed and it's pretty nice.
Now that they've started permitting.
Yeah. No, it honestly, like that was like a secret, like little emerald triangle up there that not a lot of people knew about, because when I moved up there, I found out that there was like, these are generational people up here. And I was like, I had no idea. I don't think anybody really realized how much good weed comes from that area.
Yeah. I think the weed economy for growers and places is also changed so much. You hear all these different stories of now Ukiah, Humboldt, the Emerald Triangle, and at a certain point you were kind of forced to be under the trees and having to grow out there, and now they're so far away from the city to be able to conduct business. And so now all the business is being conducted in the cities, and people are growing in the cities, and now they're so far away, and you see the whole economies of towns collapse because 100%. Of how the licensed market has affected the weed economy in these smaller towns, these smaller communities.
I just watched a YouTube channel. I watch this guy on YouTube. He goes around to different places, but he just recently went up to Trinity County and went to the towns up there, and they are complete ghost towns. And if you would have gone up there during Prop 215, they were completely alive.
Yeah.
But these towns are completely decimated. And that is really sad. Like
people go there for work. People go from other, like, all these different places to find work to trim because you needed them.
Like the Trimmigans. Remember the Trimmigans?
Yeah.
I came up with a scary horror film about that because, like, I couldn't imagine being that person. I guess I'm just not very trusting in people, but I mean, up there in Nevada County, you would have people come up to you, like I drove a big truck back then. And so like people obviously could tell like I was a grower up there, and they would come up and they couldn't speak hardly any English. And they're like from France and Spain and like all these European countries. And they're just like snippy. And I'm like, and these people literally are like, oh yeah, come on, man, come up to my property in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell service, and you're just gonna live on these properties. And like the horror stories that I've heard about people getting locked in barns, having to sleep on the floor of a barn, and then the guy would come unlock it every day so you wouldn't rip him off. Like, to me, I was always like, I don't know, it's not worth it. The money's not worth it to put yourself through that kind of a situation where you could have never made it home.
Yeah,
you know, like
I mean, both ways, right? Like picking up people.
Yeah, that also too.
Really like, what are you doing? For them just to go on these properties and do it.
Oh my God.
And trim.
But that world up there is so different. Like, you have people that hitchhike up there.
Yeah.
Like, and they're just going to town. Like, they're just waiting for somebody to drop by, pick them up, and take them into town. And then they'll wait over there by the library.
Because there's no walking down the big hill 5 miles. Like, that's not happening.
No. It's a 45-minute drive.
Yeah.
Or you'd see people walking, though. So I guess some people would do it. But yeah, no, it's a wild world up there. But it's definitely a really fun place to live. That's for sure. I miss it a lot.
Yeah. So kind of every time I come, so even the last time during our sesh for the Patreon, by the way, if you're not subscribed to our Patreon, subscribe.
It's only $2.99.
Watch the sessions as we go. But you had all this different kinds of rosin in many different forms. And do you still feel like as you're doing this in your journey, are you still learning? Is there still things that are exciting to you? Like how do you feel about the cannabis industry at this moment?
I love the evolution of the genetics. That's really what I get excited about now, is like all the different genetics. And then I love the evolution of rosin. Like I was showing you, like all the different textures, and hash to me is really the end goal should be of cannabis. We see that with every ancient culture that has used cannabis throughout time. They've always turned it into hash. So I'm really happy to see all the nuances with hash coming out and all the new equipment that they have. Because, back in the day to make hash, it was a big manual, like labor of love, and it didn't always come out good. Now they've got these stainless steel, refrigerated, like washing machines and freeze dryers. Like it has gone so far. So for me, I still get really excited about the rosin and the hash world, as well as like the genetic evolution. Like I think it's so fun to watch new flavors get created, and things that we've never tasted before. I think that's where my goal is right now. I don't really look to see how high it gets me. I'm like, how mouth coating.
Yeah, I was like, are you flavor chasing? Are you more of a flavor chaser?
Yeah.
Because now we're seeing these genetics with these other just like watermelon, strawberry, and it legit smells and tastes like those flavors. We're like, how do you do this? How is this possible?
It's just that's the beauty of the legalized side of it, is like the spreading of genetics has like gone so far now. Like back in the day, it was like you had some breeders in Amsterdam, couple here in Cali, but now you've got so many new breeders coming online, and there's so much more of like a demand for something new in the marketplace because of the business side of things. Like they're always trying to find the newest thing to put into their garden. I think that's why we're getting to see so much new of it. But yeah, like I have a strawberry guava downstairs that I'm going to try tonight. And it's like, I'm really excited about that because like those strawberry terps are incredible.
I love the strawberry ones. Those are some of my favorites. But I noticed that a lot of people have not been able to experience it. Like they just really don't know about it. Like there's certain brands that if I show somebody like Fig Farms, for example, and like Fig Farms comes out with some really tasty flower and they're like, oh, I've never actually tasted
weed
the
like
flavor.
that.
The flavor in my weed, and it just something clicks in their brain and you can just tell it completely switches their outlook on.
I think it's two things. It's one, unfortunately, the regular customer is kind of behind a paywall and they don't know if it's worth the paywall because they probably have had bad experiences in the past and they really don't know.
But I mean, Native Humboldt Farms, her sun grown, you could taste the blueberry and the blueberry strains. There's still
some up there. That's actually what I love. Speaking of Fig Farms, their new Duffy's brand that they've started.
Okay.
I'm really happy with that. Good. I think at the price point that they're asking, which is like $12.50 wholesale, that gets to the customer. And you're basically smoking figs like smalls or certain flowers that they felt like weren't good enough to put into their fig jars. But like that's been a way like I've been trying to seek those kind of brands out so that I can get people to stop buying the $20 stuff. And I'm like, just spend $10 more and like your palate will love you. Like you'll still get high, but yeah, getting people to experience it. The lounge, that's the other spot. I get to show people things that like they've never had before. Like 710 will sponsor the lounge a lot and a couple other brands and like they'll just give us stuff so customers can go back there and try. And that's super fun.
Special thing to manage too. Yeah. It's the only lounge in Sacramento County at all. And it's been running for years flawlessly, no problems. There's a lot of scary things when it comes to lounges, liability, like all kinds of stuff. But it's been going super strong at the Delta Boys for a long time.
I think we don't also have to deal with like super general public at our spot because you kind of have to drive out here. So it's people being a little bit more intentional coming out here than just anybody, walking by or being in a city that would
or going to drink and they're like bar hopping and then, I'm going to go into a store and get crossfaded and puke everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really deal with that at all. But it is a really fun experience getting people to try like those flavors and seeing them get excited about that. And maybe they don't buy it that one time, but maybe the next time during Christmas or for their birthday, they'll come and buy it and treat themselves. And that's super rewarding because like, I do want everybody to smoke the best weed. I hate that weed right now is in a place for the average smoker because it shouldn't be. It doesn't need to be, but it's dirt weed. It's dry and brittle and has no smell or nothing to it. And I'm just like with all these millions of square footage between all of these licensed farms, like these major license holders that have 1 million square feet, can you just put a little bit more effort into like creating a good product? Because people should smoke good weed. You shouldn't just be like, whatever, these people will smoke it, because I feel like that's the one thing that I hate about the big farms is like there's no love for the end person of enjoyment. Like there's no pride in that. And I think that that's where like the culture gets it right is like you might not like that guy's strain, but the passion behind him creating that strain and loving it and getting to share it with people, like that's real weed. You know what I mean? And I wish that more of the corporate side of things just had a little bit more love for sharing that with their end user. You know what I mean? Like if I had 1 million acres, like I would want to produce the best 1 million acre farm, like best, like even if it was tomatoes or lettuce, it's like, you don't want to just put crap out there, So
your name is on it.
Yeah. You would think that they'd have more pride with it, but they don't. And that's really disappointing.
Or people that just don't understand. A lot of people who, like you were saying, they had, I'll pay you double for this place just to get the license or to be able to grow. And they didn't come from the cannabis world. Yeah. They came from the business world. And it was more business opportunity than it was working with the plant, this is very specific in the way that the freshness is, months after months, you can have some really good flower and then it'll start degrading if you don't know how to store it correctly. If there's so many different nuances to not only how to grow the best, but how to keep the quality of the flower preserved, and with the jars and the bags and putting it into the individual packages, it then makes it like the time be less, because as soon as you put it into those individual packages, it starts its degradation process.
I have thought about the flower storage thing for a long time, especially because I did that big outdoor grow. So you'd go from none to like hundreds, and like, how do we keep this? But it just seems like it just ages regardless. And it goes back to like the ancient cultures turning everything into hash. Is like, I just don't think you can keep flour. I think that there's too much, I don't want to say life there, but like you're trying to store a decomposing body in a way, right? Like, how do you keep, right? but keep it fresh. So that way when you pull it out, it still looks like it did when it died, right? You know, and that for me is like really hard. So it's like, I don't know if there's ever going to be a point where we could preserve flower long term, and maybe that's it. Maybe we're producing too much weed.
Yeah, and that's kind of my next question is, it was a problem that you were dealing with back when the legalization started, is the oversaturation. How do you feel? Has it changed? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse at this point?
It's worse at this point. Yeah. I think that there is, like back then, weed that was being produced under Prop 215 for medical patients, right? I'm using air quotations for those of you listening. It didn't all stay in California, okay? So even though maybe we were producing the same volume of weed, it didn't stay here. Well, now we're still producing the same volume of weed, but what's happening? The weed's staying here, right? Yeah. So we're almost producing so much weed that it makes it nearly impossible for anybody to grow something boutique, because to grow a boutique product, you have to like put a hefty tag on that, because it costs a lot more than just doing an industrial grow, right? So now we're at a point where weed's so cheap that the customer is just bombarded with cheap weed that why spend more?
Yeah, and I think that was a strategy also. So in order to produce the numbers that got investment in your budgets, you would project a large amount of yield, large amount of pounds, in anticipation of being able to do interstate commerce. And that was something that many people thought would potentially happen, maybe sooner than it's going. And I really don't know. I don't see it in at least the near foreseeable future that the interstate commerce is going to be able to open up. So for probably the next few years, like, it's going to stay that way.
The next 7-8 years, it's going to be like that for sure. And maybe that means that those big farms do fail. You know what I mean? Maybe they move to other countries. Maybe they move to other states where there isn't like such an abundance, because I don't think that that's a problem like in Michigan. Yeah. You know, that's not a problem in Michigan. When you look at Michigan weed, all of it's pretty nice weed. And it's like, well, yeah, you look at how much pounds per square acre this area is producing versus California, and it's a lot of a difference. So, I think that we just produce too much, but, maybe that'll balance itself out somehow, is my hope. Yeah.
And as buyer and manager for this space, the Joseph Boys too, you get to see kind of everything that's rolling through, all the different brands, all the new brands. Have you seen anything exciting new lately?
I mean, I just have my 2 old faithfuls that I stand by, and it's because they both grow in kind of small indoor spaces. I have a love for sun-grown weed. Don't get me wrong. Like, the people over at like Sonoma Hill Farms, like, I watch these people daily. Like, they are living kind of what my dream life could be. It's like food, good weed, all organic, all clean. Everything's just so beautiful, but I can't sell it. And it's really, really hard to sell it. And so, like, as a buyer, it's like, it breaks my heart that I have to say no to people. Yeah. Because I don't want to say no. I want to say, hell yeah, this is amazing.
Let's buy everything. And the customers will love it. And they're going to come in and spend their money.
And they won't, unless you're in a certain area. Like, I think The Woods does a good job of highlighting sun-grown farms. I think a lot of his menu is that. But he kind of attracts like a different type of customer to his store. But yeah, as a purchasing manager, I really only see two brands in my mind that like always stand out to me, and that's Decibel and Boxski. They are both, male growers, but they're both very good at what they do, and they do it in a small space and small teams, and they're really kind of blowing the big corporate indoor grows like out of the water as far as quality is concerned. So, yeah, those, and I love it. Like every bag you open is just, the nugs look so good. They hand trim it bright. Like they don't beat up the nugs. Like, oh, that drives me nuts. Rounded weed where it comes and it's just all rounded out. Oh, it breaks my heart, but I love it.
The little things you kind of notice.
Oh, yeah.
Even when like you see there's the reach in it and you're like, okay, it burst, went up because of the lights and all these little things. That
all
you
the foxtails.
Yeah.
That actually happens from too much phosphate. So people who use synthetic fertilizers, they're very heavy in phosphates. It's the way that they're built, basically, without going into too much detail. But they're really heavy in phosphates. And phosphates with cannabis causes a lot of stem growth, which is really good in the beginning because you're like, yeah, all these stems grow up. But most people don't dial that back in their recipe, and they keep pushing all that phosphate. And certain strains that tend to have more of those like linkier structures, they just keep growing the stems out of the weed till you get these really long, weird things. I mean, it can also happen from heat, but mostly it's just from too much phosphate in the garden. And
like little things that can affect, and you got to know that.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. As when you're searching for
poor brand reps. I feel bad for them sometimes. Like I want to apologize to reps that if I've been critical of what you're doing, like I apologize, but it's just really hard for me when you're sitting here selling me your product and it's like, I can see it, Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's education, because I've been on that other
They don't
side
appreciate it.
Also, and it sucks,
Yeah.
right? It really sucks because that means like, how am I going to eat? How am I going to get my paycheck if I don't sell this weed? But it is so important to dial in your brand, and that feedback is going to help you be able to get into more stores than you would eventually.
Back to what we were saying about like the money with people and the big farms and producing a lot. That is also part of the reason like I haven't been able to get a grow going is like in the beginning I tried to find investors, but because my numbers were not like these high projection numbers, like they just didn't see the cause and effect.
Yeah.
And so it's like to do craft, like you literally have to be self-funded.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, also those people that did those big projections, liars.
Yeah. It's true.
They, people, it's so funny because it's a certain kind of person, right? That's going to do the big numbers and the projections. And it's going to be the kind of person that's like honest, hardworking, that's going to give the real numbers, and it's not going to line up.
I'm like, what happened to the old saying, like, under promise, over deliver? Like, what happened to that? Like, these people are just over promising.
But guaranteed you did not want those people's money.
No.
Anyway,
yeah, there's always that. There's always that.
Because then, it's a whole nother aspect of it. But what do you see now in your journey, and what are you excited for the future? I know you're going a little bit more into like, so you have all this knowledge, right? You have this education piece. We're doing the podcast. There's documentation, content creation. Like, what are you kind of excited in the cannabis space now that you want to see in the future?
Our show, like, that's really the thing that makes me the happiest right now is like, as far as like the store is great, but that's just work at the end of the day. But this has been the thing. The other thing I've been considering is building out like a small garden. This year, I hope they do it next year because like that's when I'll qualify. But the state fair has opened up like the homegrown category.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
that's pretty cool.
I was like, I hope they do it next year because if they do, like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I could, work my way back into it. But ultimately right now, like the show is my really important thing. And that's just because like I want to document it all, but I also kind of like want to share myself. And I think that's just like today, like we've been talking about doing this episode for a minute and I'm always really nervous about it, but I've got to get better about sharing myself out in the world. And so like having the show, I think is like a big part of it because I think that hopefully in the future, it's like, you never know who might see it and what kind of opportunities might open up from it. But yeah, mostly doing the show is like what I think about every day is like how we can do it. I mean, it's so hard with our name. Like I love our name, but it has caused us a huge problem when it comes to the internet. Like every page gets taken down and it's just
SSW.
That's it.
Instead of SheSellsWeed.
So yeah, if you're out there and you see the SSW show, like it's us, like because the people, the name is so hard, but I love our name because it's exactly what we do. You know, I really look forward to us like, you know, really growing it. You know, we were talking about like possibly having a get together. I think like those are really fun ideas, and just growing it and becoming like the figurehead, because I think people like myself and like you that have been in it for a long time, like have to have a voice, and we have to build a community, and we have to share all these things, because if we don't, like it'll just get lost in the atmosphere, you know. And I want people to learn.
And
as much as
we'd
possible.
be forgetting stuff all the time. Like I'm gonna be able to watch certain things and come back to it, so that they just don't get lost in the ether of what it is. Because was it kind of hard for you to look back on so many years and be like, shit, what did I do for?
I had to kind of go back through my phone actually to like look at all the dates and everything, but I really, really enjoyed it. You know, it was a really fun time, and honestly, it was probably like the freest time I've ever been, because like my money was mine. I earned it myself. I worked for it myself. I got to help people that were like, I've like helped quite a few people pass on. That was kind of a really unique experience with it. And I just love cannabis so much. It's done so much good for so many people. And like, even with, you know, this new federal, like things going, like, I know that there's going to be negative things that are going to come out. Yeah. And it's like, I just need people to know that like, there's plenty of us that have been doing it a long time.
Yeah. And it is such an evolution too, where this is an industry where it's constantly changing from Prop 215 to state legislation to now federal legislation. And you kind of just gotta be in it at the time. And like you said, cherish those moments and appreciate what you're doing at the time that you're doing it, because in a couple years, it might not be the same.
I had no prediction of that. Like I'm not kidding you, okay? Like, I started going to like normal meetings because I was like, wait, what the fuck's going on here? Like, what do you mean we're legalizing? Like, we're doing it this year? Like, this is happening, like really happening? And everybody's like, yes, it's really happening. And I'm like, this is terrifying, because like, I don't think anybody was really ready for it, to be honest with you.
I think I might have known a little bit more because I was in Sacramento. Yep. And that's where all the lobbying, the legislation is happening. So I can imagine, you know, like we're probably the first ones to kind of know when things go down the pipeline and different things like that, but then it trickles out. So everybody from all these different cities and counties not necessarily knowing what's happening until there's these notices and then these applications coming out. And then like, what? I need hundreds of thousands of dollars? Like, what is this?
I remember sitting in the town hall meetings with all the people that were, you know, getting ready to pass a law. And I mean, these are just normal people, and we're all standing in there, and they're like, yeah, you guys are going to have to get together, start a co-op, and figure it out, because it's happening. And everybody's like, but wait, what about us? What about this? And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll give you guys a cottage license, you know, to make it easy for you. And it's like, everybody's like, oh, okay, that sounds good. But in reality, it's like, you couldn't survive in a cottage license. Like, that license is a joke. Like, 500 square feet. Like, do you know what you could... It's like, unless you had one friend that had a dispensary that promised you to buy everything you grew, it's the only way you could survive in something that's
You didn't have to have a brand and do all the things.
Oh, yeah. Starting a brand. Yeah. Marketing. Oh, yeah. You're going to have to like basically have like a water bottle company. Like, no, it's not, it's not for everybody, you know? So, but I mean.
A strange world to be in.
We are in a strange world. It is like the Twilight Zone for sure.
So, do you have any lasting advice for anybody who's listening from your journey and what you've been through, and then, maybe for the future of this crazy world?
Yeah, whatever your passion is, keep doing it. Even if it breaks your heart, keep doing it, because it will always reward you back tenfold. So don't ever give up on your hopes and dreams. Just keep going after them. They might look different, and that's okay. And don't beat yourself up too much about the mistakes that you may or may not have made. So
we all make them.
We all do. Yep.
All the time.
All the time. But you just got to forgive yourself for it, and move on. Just pick yourself back up, put your backpack back on, and keep on walking. You know what I mean? So, but no, thank you guys all for listening. And thank you to you, Mindy, today for...
thanks for sharing your journey, Jax.
So it's been fun. So
we're going to get into our sesh. So again... sign up for our Patreon.
Yes.
To get behind the scenes.
It's $2.99 a month. It's very cheap, okay? And it gets you access to the post show, plus all the episodes, ad free, so you don't have to listen to the stupid Apple ads that jump in here. It really will support us, because we really want to grow and start doing some really fun things that include you guys. So please join the Patreon. This episode with me, I might share some of the other things that I've done that I don't want publicly out there for everybody. So you might want to tune in, especially for this one.
We feel safe behind the Patreon.
Exactly. So I hope all of you guys have a beautiful day, and
thanks for listening.
Bye.